For my first movie review on Anchor's Points, I talked about the movie The Kid Who Would Be King. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2001 film Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. Those two films are very similar, right? There's a lot of connecting themes, right? Boy, I'm really aware and paying attention to that YouTube algorithm. I should warn you, this review is more about my thoughts on David Lynch and how I felt watching Mulholland Drive than it is about the actual plot of Mulholland Drive. Today, I'm more interested in how you feel about movies that you might not fully understand on first viewing. Right now in the comments, could you tell me how you feel about movies that leave you with more questions than answers? Also, if you have seen Mulholland Drive, I would love to hear your thoughts on the film. I knew that when I was going to start viewing and reviewing the movies of David Lynch, I would be put in an uncomfortable position. When I review a piece of media, I focus on the story. If the story is a mystery, I rate the movie on how consumed I feel when trying to solve that mystery, and if I think the answer to the mystery was satisfying. Were there clues pointing toward the answer throughout the movie, the novel, the comic, the TV show? Then there are the questions I ask regardless of the type of story. Questions like, were the characters well defined and unique? Would I want to spend more time with those characters if I had the chance? Would I want to spend more time in that world if there was a continuation of the story? Now, usually the answers to those questions support the answers to these final two questions. Sometimes, if I'm not happy with the answers to those original questions, then the answers to these last two questions can redeem the piece of media. Here's the two questions. What was the creator trying to say with this piece of work? And did they effectively get that point across? I knew that reviewing a David Lynch film, I might not easily be able to answer any of those questions. I had to research what actually happened in Mulholland Drive after I watched the film. Now, as one of my viewers, you might think that means that Mulholland Drive is a flawed film. To understand Mulholland Drive, I watched the following videos and each of them will be linked in the description below. Understanding a David Lynch Film by Renegade Cut, Mulholland Drive and How David Lynch Manipulates You by Nerdwriter1, Mulholland Drive 2001 Explained and Analyzed by London City Girl. I also read through the booklet that came in the DVD box for Mulholland Drive. David Lynch had the following synopsis for the movie. Part 1, she found herself inside the perfect mystery. Part 2, a sad illusion. Part 3, love. When I read David Lynch's memoir, Room to Dream, there was an entire section devoted to the creation of Mulholland Drive. Initially, the story was going to be a spin-off of Twin Peaks. It would follow the story of Audrey Horne after she left Twin Peaks and attempted to become an actress in Hollywood. It would have been a made-for-TV movie that would have been the pilot for a TV show. Things didn't go as planned, and Mulholland Drive was turned into a feature film. I've only watched the movie once, and I will have to watch it multiple times to give you my true interpretation of it. What I can say is that the first 2/3 of the film give off a specific feeling, and the final third of the film has a completely different feeling. My wife says that there are two parts of Mulholland Drive, just like there are to any David Lynch piece of media. There is the dreamlike fantasy that seems so pure and borders on feeling fake, and then there is the harsh reality. Without spoiling the film, Mulholland Drive is 2/3 of that dreamlike fantasy, ending with 1/3 harsh reality with slight glimpses into an unsettling world during the dream state. The pacing of the movie shifts dramatically too. So much seems to happen within the final third of the film. The pace of the film seems to speed up, with each scene taking up a half the amount of time as the scenes in the beginning of the film. I found this to be extremely jarring, but knowing Lynch and doing my research, I know that this was intentional. The entire film has been a dream up until the end, with reality trying to work its way in throughout. At the end of the film, the dream can no longer sustain itself, and reality sets in. I feel like I've already given away too much with that description, but in a way, I think that will help you with your overall enjoyment of Mulholland Drive, if you've yet to see it. One of the videos I watched, there was a reference to the fact that the random vignettes throughout the movie seem disconnected to the main story, featuring Naomi Watts' Betty and Laura Elena Herring's Rita. On first watch, I tried to speculate about the connection between these scenes and the main story. But only after watching the explanation videos did I start to connect all of the clues. I thoroughly enjoyed the vignettes. Whether it was the scenes with Mark Pellegrino's bumbling hitman or Justin Theroux's director's awkward boardroom meeting with the producers of the film he's trying to make. The vignette that stands out for me, though, and looking online seems to stand out for most fans of the film, is the scene at the very beginning in Winky's Diner. A perfect example of tension and suspense within the film with a complete lack of anything that is visually threatening. The diner scene takes place during the day and is full with tons of extras. Visually, the characters in the scene are surrounded by potential saviors and helpers. They are in a well-lit public place, statistically the last place you should expect something horrific to happen. Yet almost immediately in the scene, you can feel the goosebumps popping up on your arm and your heart rate accelerating. Through dialogue, acting, and sound design, an environment of suspense is created, leading up to one of the scariest scenes in movie history. When you accept the scene as a glimpse of brutal reality trying to work its way into a dream, it only makes the movie more upsetting to watch. We all have our delusions we try to escape to get away from the harsh reality of life. But even in dreams, our subconsciousness tries to bring us back to this reality. The movie takes its sharp turn into harsh reality after its most beautiful scene. In the most beautiful sequence in the film, Rita and Betty attend a performance where all of the singing and music in the performance are pre-recorded, but the performers seem like they are performing it live. And on stage comes a singer who sings in a beautiful voice the Spanish version of the Roy Orbison song Crying. I truly felt like I was hypnotized watching this scene. She had one of the most beautiful voices I had ever heard. And the way that Lynch films it, you're just focused on her with a tight close-up on her face. And then in the audience you see Betty and Rita's reaction to the song. And appropriately, they are crying to the song. And you can tell that reality has finally set in and things are about to change. My wife is a huge fan of that version of the song, and I know that for the longest time, David Lynch wanted to get that specific version of Crying into a film. And that scene that I discussed earlier about the diner might be the scariest scene in the film. When the woman sings this Spanish version of Crying, that might be one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a David Lynch piece of work. In Renegade Cut's YouTube video on how to understand a David Lynch film, they make this point about dreams. Everyone in the dream is the dreamer, and everything in the dream means something. Keeping this in mind, you realize that everyone in Mulholland Drive is either trying to feed the illusion of the main character, or they represent reality trying to sneak its way in. Upon a first viewing, I think I had a sense of this, but I really needed to do my research to understand it. In my personal opinion, this does not make a movie less enjoyable or worthy of praise. For me, it is the opposite. David Lynch has said that he wanted to make movies because he wanted to make paintings that could move. Abstract art and poetry have a place in my heart, and surreal films can fit in there snugly with them. To me, I see poetry and abstract art as a way to convey complex emotions and thoughts without a straightforward narrative. In a straightforward film, we would look at the performance of an actress and her dialogue for cues to see that she was delusional or depressed. In a surreal film, in a David Lynch film, the setting of the movie, the sound design, the focus of the camera, and the performances of the characters around the actress submerge us much deeper into the actress's emotional state. I almost feel like I can't rate Mulholland Drive until I've watched it more than once. After watching explanation videos of the film and doing my research, it does make me appreciate the movie. I would currently give it 4 Clemmies. On our next episode, I'm actually going to interview another writer that I'm following on Patreon. So I'll be looking forward to that one. Thanks so much. Please stay safe.